Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nahmadu nasalli ala Rasuli Kareem. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today's talk for Jumma, for Friday, not a Juma Khutbah, as I always remind you that Juma Khutbah, inshallah, very soon will start, is about death, and that's inevitable. It's something that is going to happen to all of us and to everybody that we know. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, after A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut, that every soul shall taste death. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He make our death easy, and that when we leave this world, and we leave the test of this world, that we have a good death, and that we're not in need of anybody, we don't need anybody's help, that we are walking with our own 2 feet, and we have a husna khatima, a good ending in this world, in a state that is the best day of our lives, that is the most pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. And a poet in Arabic, he said, every son of a woman, even his well-being is quite long. He lives a long and healthy life, 80 years, 100 years, healthy. A day will come that he will be lifted up and carried. Now that you're carrying, a day will come that others will carry you. The bier, the funeral procession, the body is being lifted. Now you're carrying somebody else. But it should remind you that one day you'll not be carrying, others will be carrying you. So death is inevitable. The life that is coming after death is more important than this life. This dunya, with all its revolutions, with all its ups and downs, with all its kingdoms, with all the happenings of this world, akhirah is more important because that's eternal. And again in the Quran we've been reminded of this. I just want to apologize to the camera. We had to use a lower grade camera, so if the quality is not good, especially for the stream, but I hope the audio is coming through clear, inshallah. The life of this world is short. The hereafter depends on it, but in the overall scheme of things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about akhir khayrun wa abqa. It's better and it's enduring, meaning it'll be forever. This dunya, whatever is in this dunya, is temporary, will end. The buildings, the houses, the mountains of this dunya, as the Quran, will fly like cotton, like jinn cotton, like a small string or a piece of cotton that will fly in the air. Mountains, let alone anything that human beings have built. Until now, human beings have not built an Everest or a mountain of any sort, maybe a hill at most, right? So, but even those big mountains with the amount of billions and billions of tons of rock in it will fly like pieces of cotton, let alone our small little houses with our little tiles and our plasterboard walls and wooden frames and so forth. This whole dunya and everything in it will perish, including ourselves. So what's coming after the life after death is forever and enduring, and more important and better than this life. And one of the reasons I'm giving the khutbah, my uncle Bahullah Hazarwi, he passed away last night. May Allah have mercy on him, forgive him, and also other brothers as well. Brother Abdul Salam, his father passed away. People passed away from coronavirus. I'm doing this recording here while somebody's outside carrying on about they want to access the masjid when we made a decision not to open until yet. People don't seem to understand that this thing is serious still, and we need to make sure we take care of our community. That's our first priority. And death isn't only in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to the Sahaba who took their, because when something goes wrong, the same people that are insisting, they'll disappear, they'll not be there to support. That when the Sahaba radiallahu anhu insisted on radiallahu anhu, without, because they didn't understand, they made one of the Sahaba do ghusl, fard ghusl, they had to do while on journey, and he had to do a ghusl, and he died of hypothermia. Because they insist that he does it because that's the hukam, but they didn't understand that in that instant where your life is in danger, you're excused. But they didn't know, innocently, they didn't know, so they insisted, and he had a shower and he passed away due to the cold. He got sick. Radiallahu anhum. And Rasulullah said, you killed your brother. He wasn't happy with what happened. Then it was an accident, but they didn't do it. They didn't mean any ill will by it. They were just trying to do the right thing. But he goes, you killed your brother. So people, imagine if you're them hearing that from Rasulullah directly, how difficult it would have been. Like I think it was Osama bin Zayd radiallahu anhu, when he killed somebody in the battle, and he said the kalima just before he was fighting against the Muslims. He came in battle, and most likely, he was doing it to save his life. He said the kalima, and then he was still killed by the Muslims. And when he was informed, Rasulullah informed, and he said he was just saying it to save his life, like it was a trick he was trying to play on the Muslim. That's how they understood. He said, did you open up his heart and check inside that he had iman? He said, I wish, when Rasulullah was like displeased on that, he says, I wish I was not born. Imagine being reprimanded by Rasulullah directly. How much they love Rasulullah, Imam al-Anbiya, and there's no order of Rasulullah they didn't accept, they were fulfilled every order of Rasulullah. Anyway, the death is a reality. It's inevitable. It's something that all of us have to face, and we have to face the death of our loved ones and our relatives and friends passing away. And we have to prepare for it, and we have to prepare our community for this. Death in general is part of life, and the secular madrasas and Darul Ulooms, the primary school, high school, universities, because you have to have a certain belief system to be in that system or to survive in that system. I'm being sarcastic, obviously. So, the primary school, high schools are the maktabs and madrasas. These are and the universities are the Darul Ulooms that we take our deen from today. The kufr that is there, like we need to really. I'm not sure this word exists in the dictionary, but we need to make. They're saying people are talking about decolonizing the mind. The colonial effect that is on humanity and also on Muslims in a very, very big way. That we need to decolonize the mind. Like maybe decolonize our countries, but the Muslims are still colonized. Probably better than that is we de-kufr our minds. The kufr ideas that are antithetical to deen. We let our guard down in the last 20, 30 years, where we felt that atheism crept up on this society in Australia, and at the detriment of this society. I'm talking about the Christians and the non-Muslims that live generally. It's a Christian country, Australia, historically. And in the recent history, last 200 years. Their Christianity, they lost their Christianity, and it was replaced with nothingness, with basically an atheistic sort of hybrid in the middle, and then eventually just became. And Muslims felt comfortable, we felt comfortable, these schools, universities are neutral ground, which faith is not discussed. We felt comfortable with that. Akhirat is not discussed. You can go from discussed. If you can go from first year, from prep, from pre-prep, from kinder, Allah is not mentioned. You go to prep, Allah is not mentioned. Go to grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Akhirat is not mentioned. You can go up to year 12, and the person is still ignorant about Allah and about Akhirat. In that madrasa, there is no, intentionally, you're being denied the recognition of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then you go to university, and if you're fortunate, alhamdulillah, that is one thing, despite all their flaws, Muslim schools that exist in Australia, Muslim schools, they at least offer some, it's a very substandard level of general deen education, and it doesn't prepare most of us, because I went through it myself at one point. I went through public school system and through the schooling system, the Muslim school system, and doesn't prepare you fully for everything. But at least you get to meet other Muslims, say salam to them, and alhamdulillah, at least you get to pray dhuhr in these schools. It's pretty much as far as it goes in most of them. Alhamdulillah, others do better, some do better than others. But decuffering your mind is a effort that requires knowledge. The biggest thing within that knowledge that requires to counter it, because if you go through a whole schooling system and Allah is never mentioned to you, then why are we surprised that a Muslim comes out, he becomes an atheist? When he gets to university, gets his feet in the ground, gets a little bit of confidence, like he was never exposed in an Imani environment or in Imani education. Why would we be surprised that he becomes a mulhid or an atheist, becomes murtad and leaves Islam? And from the fundamental things of deen, from the fundamentals of deen is belief in akhirah. Not just a belief in akhirah, something that you say amantu billah wa malaikatu bi rusuli in maktab on Saturday school or in madrasa when you're a kid, and then you forget about it. It's actually something that is constantly a part of a Muslim's life. And you see that in the Quran. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَقُولُ آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. There's some people, the munafiqeen, the hypocrites say, we believe in Allah and we believe in akhirah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says they don't believe, they don't have iman. They say this, they make a claim. So always in the Quran you see the belief in hadith as well. Whoever believes in Allah in the last day, man amana billahi wa falyukrim dayfa. Whoever believes in Allah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever believes in Allah in the last day should honor his guest. Whoever believes in Allah and the last day should honor his guest, do ikram of his guest. Whoever believes in Allah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever believes in Allah and the hereafter, the life after death, the last day, should not harm his neighbor, and so forth. So this idea of life beyond death, we all have to go through death to go to akhirah. Then there's a middle stage that we go through as barzakh, which is in the qabr, and then there's the day of judgment before the final destination, Jannah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah make all those of our family and friends and the believers who passed away, Allah bless them with Jannatul Firdaus. And also and the other destination is Jahannam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all our beloved ones and ourselves from the fire of Jahannam. That is the journey of that is the journey of man. That is the journey of Bani Adam, of the children of Adam, and that is something all of us have to go through. What a foolish system has been created that totally negates Allah, their creator. One brother, he was mentioned to me, he's a school teacher. So when he was doing his teacher training, so all the teachers are there, they're in doing some sort of workshop or something. And he said he would ask the question, to the teachers, the future educators of the next generation, that what happens if a child asks, what's the purpose of life? What do we tell them? This was his way of giving dawah, And he said all these people, none of the lecturer can't answer this question. The one who's teaching you how to do tarbiyah and raise your kids. So what a deficient worldview you will have, that you don't know who Allah is, your creator, most fundamental thing, and you don't know that you've been created to worship Him, right? And what a foolish system it is that doesn't tell you what happens after death. So we took it as an advantage. It's a neutral ground, and religion is not taught. So we can be Muslims in our private life, and they can be Christian, whatever, and our deen will not be criticized. No, actually, it's good that your deen, people confront you with deen, so you can give da'wat of your deen. There many times when I was in high school, here in Doncaster, I think it was at that time it was like a handful of three, as far as I knew, there's 3 Muslim students in the 1100 students. And when a student, year 9 students, when they used to challenge, or year 8, year 9, I remember this, that they used to challenge you. They talk about religion, because for a Muslim, Islam can't be hidden. It's not something that we love, and you can't keep it inside. You have to tell others about it. You have to change your environment, whether it be high school or whether it be university. Alhamdulillah, there are many student associations actively making efforts. It's a drop in an ocean of the university. They put tables, dawah tables, and they make effort among the students, and they work in the musallas and so forth, and Jummas and Salat, Allah reward them. And much easier now than when it used to be. But mashallah, there's brothers and sisters actively doing, and not to get dissolved in the environment, and not to just be there to get their degree. They're trying to establish deen and practice deen. That's why I tell my students that your mothers are more braver than you because they go in the environment with hijab and practicing. And you guys are ashamed to wear even a cap. You're ashamed to wear a cap in public so that people don't identify. And your mothers and your sisters, they go in hijab to identify. They identify as Muslims publicly. But anyway, so what a system that we're in. Something that I've gone through myself, university and 2 universities, and it's I've been through it. But how minimal is faith? The ultimate truths are not there. The ultimate truths are not there. So one of those basic truths that each one of us have to face and bring it into our day. So Rasulullah ﷺ said that whoever believes in Allah and the last day, whoever believes in Allah and the day of Qiyamah, should honor his guest. So guests come every now and then, maybe let's say once a week on average, or fortnight. Right? Whoever believes in Allah and the last day should not harm his neighbors. That's every day. So meaning your connection with belief in Allah and belief in Allah and the hereafter, the life after death, is always there. It's a constant part of your daily way. It's a state of mind and the way you are as a Muslim. Akhirah is constantly there. Jannah and Jahannam is constantly there. It's not something that you switch off, and you can't do that. As a Muslim, you can't do that. We have to come before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why living a spiritually fruitful life, a life of a'mal, a life of da'wah, a life of giving, right? A life of charity and good works. These are things that a Muslim, that was a life of a Muslim. And for the early Muslims, it was considered shame if they died the children considered shame their parents died at home. They wanted their parents to die in jihad. It was considered shame if a father died at home, that he wasn't in the battlefield. That was an honor that's how those Muslims. Once upon a time there was Muslims. We can tell fairy tales to our kids about what Muslims used to be like. One of the things that will happen to the Muslim in the end of times, his obsession with dunya, her obsession with dunya with so much. That Rasulullah ﷺ said something about people who pass away, the good ones that pass away, the salihun. The people of the last generation, they were out of a different mold. They were harder, stricter, but they were in a much better grounded position than maybe what's to come. So as a Muslim, look, I have to be concerned. I have to be worried about my akhirah. I have to do something to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the pious will pass one by one. They'll keep passing, dying. We lost so many good people in the last few weeks. So many ulama passed away. Great ulama with half century of work behind them. And we lost giants in the last few months. And the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the pious, one by one, they'll pass away, until there'll only remain the husk, the shell, as a hadith mentioned, that only the husk, the shell, the refuse will remain. Like a straw, I mentioned the dars hadith the other day, that like the straw mats, when you roll them up and the little bits of flake off and the little bits of the refuse and so forth, or after you crush barley and you sift it and the shell, the husk and so forth, that's put aside. That's all that will remain. They will not be, the people of substance will disappear. One by one they'll pass away, they'll die. And that's when seniors of our community pass away, and the elders pass away, that's what we'll end. Rasulullah ﷺ said, meaning more or less that innal barakata ma'a kabirikum, indeed barakah is with your elders, with your seniors. And so when our seniors, they leave us, we're losing a lot of barakah. And they live the life that sometimes we don't even understand. But if you look at their morals and you look at their core things of Iman and so forth, they're in much better position than maybe where we're at. And they're much more resilient, that's for sure. So we have to be concerned. We have to be concerned about the next generation. We have to be concerned about ourselves. How much is our obsession only with dunya? Or is death something that is a reality before us that we are trying to prepare for? And are we getting caught up in a lot of isms without even realizing what we're getting caught up in? A Muslim has to look at everything with the light of the Quran, with the light of the Sunnah. The problem is many of us don't know much Quran. I'm talking even translation, or what the Quran even says. And let alone having the mindset of the Quran. We've got an amalgamation of our own personality mixed with stuff from school and maybe some talks that we heard here and there. There's a lot of Muslims like that. I'm talking about practicing Muslims. Alright? That hadith that mentioned about the husk or the shell of a Muslim said Allah will not care about them. Like the ones who became salih, they became righteous. Allah made them salih. They made such an effort, they became righteous in the sight of Allah. Right? That's not a name, that's not an identity or a label that you attach to yourself. It's not a label that you attach to yourself. I'm a Muslim, I'm a good Muslim, or something like that. That's not just a label. There's a reality to that. And those who become good at it, they become salih. In the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, become salih, righteous. You make the effort of becoming salih, Allah will make you salih, puts a stamp on you that you're salih in His eyes, not for the people. And becoming salih, becoming righteous, is trying to achieve that. A life in which you're righteous, which you're good, is a effort that we have to make before we die. But the obsession of the Muslims of the end of times, Allah alam where we are in terms of Qiyamah, but a lot of signs are around us that Muslims will take their cue from other things. And we have to be very, very careful in this time. Sometimes a slogan is there and you don't know that behind that slogan there's who's behind it and what's behind. I'm not talking about conspiracy theories. As an example, something right in front of us. What's happening in the news at the moment, the brutality, police brutality and so forth. Basically what's what the waves that are going through the world. Allah alam if anything will change out of it. But when Muslims start using slogans like Black Lives Matter, without understanding that the slogan is fine, the movement is problematic. The organization is all problematic. Most people don't know. Yeah, who would disagree that you shouldn't do? No Muslim would disagree with that. You cannot oppress people because of the color of their skin. Right? We all would agree with that. There's no issue with that. Problem is when you have an organization that's called that, and on their website when you check their beliefs, they have an About Us section. Have a look at it. That we are pro. They're anti. What was it? Basically, they're anti the normal husband-wife relations. Have a look at their website and have a look at what they believe. Now, the average person, the average Australian, the average American, the average person, mainly because it's happening in the West, they don't even know. They don't know what they're supporting. What they saw was oppression, and that oppression is being now. And the reaction to that oppression is being channeled. Now companies are getting and they're kneeling, they're kneeling as well. Because it's in their interest. As long as their profits are not affected, they will kneel. They'll do anything. They'll make sajda to you. As long as they get their money. So they see an opportunity. So as a Muslim, don't be as I say, don't be a sheeple. Don't be a sheep. Don't just go with the masses, the crowds, and don't be like cattle. Be driven to a certain direction, and we're not checking behind it who's who, what's what, what's the morals. 100% as a Muslim. I don't think there's any Muslim that will be against the idea that zulm should not be done on anybody, let alone based on the color of their skin. It's abhorrent. It's abhorrent in Islam. Yeah, there's Muslims have done the same zulm. They've oppressed black people, brown people throughout history. That's a fact of history. That's not something Muslims deny. Some Muslims don't want to face it, but that's a reality. But when a movement is there and it's en masse, then you say, who's engineering the movement? And then you have a look at the organization. The slogan itself is not a big issue. But the problem is there's an organization called Black Lives Matter. Have a look at their About Us. What's Black Lives got to do with having being against a normal husband-wife, a heterosexual, or a husband-wife, male-female relationship? They said, no, we want to systematically dismantle that notion. Right? So sometimes these things are a Trojan horse. And within that, outside it looks like a gift, but inside of it, we don't know what's been actually kept. For so Muslim should have their own stance, and should not get caught up in the publicity, should not get caught up in the propaganda. I have to be very careful as a Muslim that make sure that I don't compromise anything, because I am going to die, and everybody else is going to die as well. And Muslims have to understand what is kufr. That's what I'm saying. I said at the start, to de-kufr the mind, not to just decolonize the mind. That's a mental, but de-kufr the mind, remove kufr notions that has been injected through education, through media, and so forth. We have to really have to make efforts. In Islam, this is called tazkiyah, to remove things that are antithetical to deen from our mind and heart. We actually have to make a conscious effort to do this, especially in our time, because so many ideas have been added, but they have no basis. Right? They have no basis in Islam. So Islam is like it's an ocean. The knowledge of Islam, and it's got a solution for all times and all ages. So as a Muslim, we have to prepare for what is after death. What am I going to ask in the qabr? Who's your Rabb? So we have to recognize Allah. What is your deen? We have to learn Islam. And we have to understand that people get to Jannah because of Islam. And if you don't have Islam, you go direct to Jahannam. Allah save us. This new Islam, some people are touting, the universal religion and so forth. This is nonsense. It's kufr. It's kufr. This is one of the de-kuffering activities we have to do. No. There's haqq and there's batil. There's truth and falsehood. The truth has been told by Allah's Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's in the Quran. It is in the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now we have to recognize that is truth and haqq. And if it says that Joe Christian, Joe Jew, Joe atheist are going to Jahannam, they're going to Jahannam. Allah save us from that. It's not something we want. It's not something we're happy on. That is the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As a Muslim, I have to submit to that. I have to accept that. That is Allah's law. Allah is the most just. He's the most merciful. He's the most forgiving. But that is something the reality a Muslim has to. And if a person can't accept that, then himself is not Muslim. That's the difficult part. And nobody's going to say this because too many sheikhs are worried to scare people away. I'm worried about when I'm saying this to you, that somebody might be so sensitive that he might not be able to hear the word kufr and kafir. They can't hear. A kafir is going to Jahannam. A disbeliever is going to Jahannam. A non-Muslim is going to Jahannam. Allah save us from that. That's something that we have to, this is like a fundamental of deen, to be a Muslim. It's not something we wish. We ask for every kafir, every disbeliever, every non-Muslim hidayah. We raise our hands, Allah give hidayah to the whole humanity, guide the whole humanity, Islam. But the outcome of kufr and disbelief, put it this way, if you start to proselytize, if you start to give da'wah, if you start to remind people of Allah in the marketplace, like they've already rejected as a system, like the society that we live in, that they'll reject it. We will not accept this into any of our institutions, right? Especially if you talk about it, because they will not accept this institution. We'll accept you as an ethnic group, as a cultural group, but this will not be influence anything in this society. It will not affect anything. We'll study you as a subject in university. We'll teach Islam as in the Oriental department, the cultural department, in the English department or something, or in history department, anthropology. We'll study you as a subject, like we study computers in the IT department, or software in the IT department, or we'll study you like as machinery. We'll study Islam. There'll be some lecture done on it, and the history will be mentioned of Muslims. But you cannot tell people to become Muslim. You cannot tell people the ideas of Islam cannot be mentioned. You cannot project those ideas into the society. You can do it in a controlled place, in a lecture theatre you hire out in the university, and you can do it in a way that is so it doesn't affect anything. Right? It doesn't change anything. So this is a very difficult thing to. They send the helicopters. Just waiting for the helicopter to go past. It's a joke. But we as a Muslim, we have to reclaim our deen based on our deen, and not the sort of the sanitized version of deen. The deen is deen. And where you find it, see, this is something interesting that most Muslims won't. There are certain places in the world Allah kept deen alive and the knowledge of deen alive with a tradition, complete tradition. If you go to the Maghariba and the Maghrib countries, Morocco and the surrounding countries, and Mauritania, they maintain a madrasa system there, the Mahdara, a very ancient old system, very similar to the Darul Uloom system in the subcontinent. The Darul Uloom system, the madrasas in the subcontinent, is the pride of the Ummah. It is the biggest network of madaris in the world in the history of Islam. Most of our people, especially the educated elite of our country, don't appreciate it. They don't understand what they've got in their country. One Mufti Taqi Osmani, very respected Shaykh, one of the greatest ulama alive today, Allah give him good health and long life. He went to Iraq many years ago, things during Saddam's days, and he tried to find a traditional madrasa in the land of Imam Abu Hanifa, rahimullah, the imam of thousands of imams. And he tried to find a traditional Darul Uloom or madrasa in the way that we have in the subcontinent, as it understood in the subcontinent. And he said, I couldn't find in the whole land of Imam Hanifa, I couldn't find a proper madrasa of what we used to. How we have a madaris system, that doesn't exist. What they have is faculties of universities. They amalgamated madaris into faculties of universities. And as soon as you do that, then it loses all its, you put tables and chairs and you lose the whole, you lose everything. Like you lose the whole sunnah, it becomes a department in university, and the sunnah goes out the window, and it's an academic exercise, it's no longer an ibadah. Illa mashallah, with an odd few. I'm not talking about a Madina University or Islamic University that's specifically established for deen, even though they're modeled on Western universities. But those traditional Darul Ulooms, madaris, right, that maintain a tradition without compromise, an understanding of deen that is not corrupted and not watered down, and teach deen. So this is why when the first Darul Uloom was established in India, the Maulana Qasim Nanatu rahmullah, he said, because they fought the English, they fought them in the Shamla Jihad, which in English is called the Sepoy Mutiny. You can read it on Wikipedia if you have time. And the Muslims lost. They lost that. So then the ulama turns to look, Allah's help is not in the battlefield to us. They realize that if we keep going like this, if all the ulama involved in fighting, then who's going to teach the people of India deen? So they established a Darul Uloom, a madrasa. But the way they established, like he said, we're not stopping the fight. We're just changing tactics. Number one. Number two, they're turning to the way of Mujaddid al-Sani, Imam Ahmad Sirhindi rahmatullah alayhi. We'll focus on tarbiyah, tabligh, ta'aleem, education, and educate the Muslims of the deen. Else they'll all just become, in the Hindu majority populace, they'll just dissolve with all the shirk and so forth. And he said, I want such a generation to come out of the madrasas. Their faces, because it was in India, their faces look Indian, they look Hindi, but their hearts and minds are Islam. They feel for Islam and they think Islam. They think the Quran and Sunnah. And this is what I'm talking about. That is a system that took the kufr out of so many Muslims. Trained a generation of Muslims that think the heart, and it comes to heads with who? The educated elites, unfortunately. And the people who are not gone through that system, they mahroom of that system of Quran and Sunnah. Not saying don't go to university. This is people take the wrong way. I went to two universities, but I'm mentioning something. Their tarbiyah was done in a way, they were molded in a character that doesn't fit with many people then those people should think, why I can't get along with the madrasa, the ulama? How come I can't sit with them and get along with them? Some people can't get along. They find it's beneath them to sit with the ulama or imam sahib or the madrasa. Not here, overseas. People like coming here. They like sitting with the imam because he's got a nice office and he's got a heated room, especially in winter. So it's something for us to reflect upon. That the biggest thing that we need to worry about is the day that we die. That is the biggest day now, not the day we were born, the day that we will meet, we have to leave this world. What preparations are we making for that? What a'mal? So I'll read one, finish off with this. There's a poem was written, it's in Arabic. I'll read in Arabic first and I'll do translation for you and finish with this inshallah. أحسن الله بنا أن الخطايا لا تفوح فإذا المستور منا بين ثوبيه فضوح كم رأينا من عزيز طويت عنه الكشوح صاح منه برحيل طائر الدهر الصدوح سيصير المرء يوما جسدا ما فيه روح بين عيني كل حي علم الموت يلوح كلنا في غفلة والموت يغدو ويروح كل نتاح من الدهر لم له يوم نطوح نح على نفسك يا مسكين إن كنت تنوح لتموتن ولو عمرت ما عمر نوح. So Allah was kind to us that He didn't expose our sins. And He covered it, else within our clothing we would have been humiliated, even though we physically covered with our clothing. If Allah didn't cover our faults, even wearing covered clothes, we would be exposed in front of the people. How many people that you see that their friends, all the people leave the body, they distance themselves from them. And you see a person, he will just become a body, there's no ruh in it, there's no soul in it. And how many before us we see that every living person, before every living is a sign of death, it sparkles and glitters in front of him, it's always there. And how many are in ghafla, while death every morning and evening goes back in, death visits her every morning and evening. Death is a normal part of life. It visits us morning and evening. And he said that cry upon yourself, O miskeen. Poor bloke, you should cry for yourself. Don't cry on other people. You should be crying for yourself. You will have to most definitely die, even if your age become the age of Nuh alayhi salam. So death is a reality. It should be something should be prepare our children for. Talk about it. It's a reality, and talk about the life that is to come after death, and make preparation. But if we don't, Rasulullah ﷺ said, increase from the remembrance of death, because it is a destroyer of pleasures. He's actually said that increase from the destroyer of pleasures, meaning death. So it is a destroyer of pleasures. Something is a reality. We have to talk about it. We have to mention. I'll make a short dua, especially for those of our family and friends, brothers that we know from our community here. So many people have passed away. We'll make dua for them as well, inshallah. Allah give us tawfiq and understanding, give us the reality of death, and give us tawfiq and make the last day of our lives the best day of our lives. And also, just before I make the dua, an announcement for Ummah Center. We have not decided yet exactly when the masjid, it will be open eventually. But brothers who insist on bullying the masjid on, it's not one that you can force your way. No, there's a whole committee here, and they're responsible for the health and safety of our community. And they also, there's brothers who come here regularly every day, who used to come here every day several times. They're not coming to the masjid. And they pushed me yesterday, and I mentioned these brothers are upset. There are other masjids that are taking a risk, and they've decided to open, and Allah reward their intention, Allah protect them. We decided till the 21st that we will sit for another meeting and decide then. Now we're finding out there are new cases. Now we're finding out that brothers are passed away from the virus. From our own families, people have passed away, locally and overseas. So this is something we cannot take a risk with. We cannot take a risk with the community. They're saying shopping centers are open and so forth. Yeah, all right. They're responsible. If anything happens there, they're responsible. We're responsible here. And each masjid that opens up, Allah reward them and Allah protect them and Allah give them the best. Here we have made a decision not to open yet. Inshallah, decision is forthcoming as a situation. But we made a decision, conscious decision, not just to close the masjid for closing the masjid. There's no fun in that. There's no enjoyment in that for us. But what was considered was to prioritize and also do what is beneficial for the community. So inshallah the masjid will be open eventually. This is not forever. But be patient, have sabr, don't bully myself or brothers and be disrespectful and trying to force your way into the masjid. It's not going to work. Jazakumullah khairah. Inshallah, we hope the masajid open up. We hope the house of Allah filled up very soon, inshallah. يا الله الرحمن الرحيم يا ملك القدوس يا سلام يا مؤمن يا مهيمن يا ذي الجبار متكبر يا أول الأولين يا آخر الآخرين يا ذا القوة المتين يا رحم المساكين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من عذاب القبر ومن عذاب جهنم ومن فتنة محيا والممات وشر فتنة المسيح الدجال ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا اللهم اغفر لحينا وميتنا وشاهدنا غائبنا صغيرنا وكبيرنا ذكرنا وانثانا اللهم من أحييت منا فأحيي الإيمان ومن توفيت منهم فتوفى على الإسلام اللهم اجعل قبورهم روضة من رياض الجنة اللهم اجعل قبورهم روضة من رياض الجنة اللهم اجعل قبورهم رياض الجنة اللهم لا تجعل قبورهم حفر من حفر النيران اللهم اغفر لهم وارحمهم اللهم اغفر لهم اللهم اعطي أهلهم صبر وسلوان Ya Allah Rahman Rahim, Ya Allah, those amongst us who passed away, Ya Allah, forgive them. Ya Allah, have mercy upon them. Ya Allah, forgive them, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, make their graves a garden from the gardens of paradise, not a pit from the pits of hell. Ya Allah, have mercy upon them. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman Rahim, Ya Allah, give their family. Ya Allah, console their family. Ya Allah, give them sabr. Ya Allah, give them sabr and jameel. Ya Allah Rahman Rahim, Ya Allah, reunite us with all our elders and all our loved ones who passed away. Ya Allah, as you promised in the Quran, Ya Allah, that we go back to our family in Jannah and the Akhirah. Ya Allah, make us together with all our loved ones and all our family and friends, Ya Allah, in Jannah together, in Jannah al-Firdaus. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Ameen ya rabbil alameen.